I was personally very disappointed when the president was asked that question by the one and only Joe Wilson. Well, Joe Wilson didn't ask the question, but he sort of popularized this, this topic, so I'll talk about it. When he was responding to the question of whether or not undocumented immigrants, I don't use the word illegal. I don't, because I don't think any human being is illegal. But I do think that that label negates the complexity of human beings. Everyone here has problems. People have gotten, I've had a couple of traffic tickets. We've had, people have had infractions with the law and so forth. But we maintain our dignity as human beings. We don't walk around being labeled, you're a law violator, you're a criminal, what the illegal moniker does. It reduces complex human beings to that one moment in their lives where they might have crossed the border illegally. But they're mothers, they're fathers, they're workers. They are churchgoers on Sundays. And so, but it also really, I think it does strip people of their humanity. They're more than just an illegal person. We need to acknowledge their complexity, but I digress a little bit. Covering illegal, covering undocumented immigrants, it's less about immigration than it is really a public health issue. I would have preferred the president first of all, to call on those people who don't think that 12 million undocumented people should be covered by the healthcare system. I would have preferred that he challenged them on several grounds. First, I think that I think the conservative movement has injected Christianity, quite frankly, has injected moral values and family values into our political discourse over the past 30 years. I don't understand how anyone who subscribed to Christianity could seriously sit there and say that we are okay with 12 million people just being on the margins of this society with no access to health insurance. I think the president could have said, you know what, fine, but is this the country that we want? I think not. But there's also been the failure of Democrats to really capitalize on some opportunities. We've got right now the flu, the swine flu. It's a perfect opportunity. The president could have said to people, cast aside your feelings about immigration. As we globalize the world economy, as we globalize goods and services, we're really also globalizing disease. Disease now moves just as fast as a jet plane that flies from New York to London. And so increasingly we're going to see these epidemics. Do you really want the millions of undocumented workers in this country who are preparing food in cafeterias for your kids at school, who are working in nursing homes with senior citizens, a vulnerable population, who are driving school buses, or who are cleaning up buildings downtown? Do you want that person, when they get sick, to have to sort of think about it? I might not be coming down with the flu. I'll wait a couple of days. When you don't have health insurance, you have to think really hard whether or not you want to go see a doctor. So it really creates a public health hazard, and I think that's one of the reasons why this ought to be done outside of, aside from the humanitarian moral reason that this should be done. But it also, what I want to do is really talk about why we're having this immigration debate, because I do think that the focus on individuals who are crossing the border prevents an overdue discussion about why people are moving all over the world, not just to the United States. At any given time, according to the United Nations, 191 million people are in a state of migration worldwide. Why is that happening? Are people just deciding, I want to leave my family behind, I want to leave my nice pet behind, and I want to go to the United States? Leaving home is an extremely difficult decision. But I think that getting some answers as to why people are moving might actually help us move the debate a little bit further. People are moving for several reasons. NAFTA was passed in the United States in 1993. And the verdict is out now on NAFTA in terms of the impact of this legislation on Mexico. By some accounts, if you look at the Economic Policy Institute study or the Institute for Policy Studies, anywhere from 1 million to 3 million Mexicans have now been displaced. They've now been dislocated, specifically because of NAFTA. Why? Because when the tariffs went down, American agribusiness could sell corn in Mexico. You can buy American grain right now in Mexico at a much cheaper price than locally produced corn. So they don't have to, and of course American corn is cheaper because it's, it's produced under heavy mechanization, it's just more efficiently produced. So Mexican farmers can compete. They're moving to the border. I mean, they're essentially moving to large cities, selling off their lands, and eventually moving to the United States to get work. So the legislators who vote for NAFTA ought to be part of that that question. We ought to have a conversation about having these trade agreements that have such an impact on Mexico, and you can't just go to the border and say we want to shut down the border and felonize people. So it's a much more complex picture. Wars, 5 million Iraqis right now have been displaced because of this war. The Vietnam War, the 995,000 Vietnamese who are in this country, that includes the American-born families, but as a result of the Vietnam War. So the wars were responsible for massive dislocations. You can look back in Central America, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala. U.S. foreign policy has played a role in some of these wars and the dislocations that have taken place. So I just want us to have a much more civil, much more sophisticated conversation as we look at immigration, not to just focus on the workers, but really focus on the structures and forces that are giving rise to so much dislocation. Thank you very much.
Take your seat and we'll be back. Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we are listening to James Thindwa, organizer with the Chicago Alliance of Charter Teachers and Staff. We will return to our speaker in a minute for our traditional City Club questions. Now, we would like to return to our speaker for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions from everyone, including guests. Holding the microphone today is PR and Programs Manager Carrie Miller and Education and Development Director Jessica Leary Allen. Now, first question, please.